Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly for pricing, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Launched in 2018, the latest generation of the Cartier Santos de Cartier is not only a comprehensive refresh of Cartier's first wristwatch, it is also a revival of the first ever pilot's watch, and this is the Santos Large Skeleton, perhaps the most exquisite of the launch year models. Let's talk a little bit about size, then get into materials and decor. The watch is not huge. It's large but not giant. It measures from side to side 39.8 millimeters. If you measure the crown guard to the opposite side, it's a little bit more if you measure from the outside of the crown itself. The watch is only 9.1 millimeters thick, and you'll be happy to know that from lug to lug it measures a manageable 47.7 millimeters. So this is more like a medium-sized round watch. Think of it as approximately a 41 millimeter round watch, and you get the basic idea, but it wears much more easily than, for example, a 41 millimeter Royal Oak. On my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, you can see the watch is narrow across the wrist. It's also got a curve or a camber. You can see how it's arced when you view it in profile, so it nicely wraps around your wrist. I can recommend it for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference, and the watch does come with an accessory leather strap. If you fit it to that strap, I think a 13.5 centimeter circumference wrist could wear this watch. It's low enough to fit under a cuff, so though it is a sports watch, it could also be a dress watch under formal attire. And you will note that the watch is wonderfully formed, so even over the top, there's no approaching of the edge of my wrist. The lugs are nowhere near. Pop and open the clasp, which is double to point. We'll take a look at the bracelet. The bracelet has the symbolic screw-style insert. So this is not actually how the bracelet is assembled in the modern era, but it's a nod to vintage Santos models. This little embellishment adds a little bit of warmth to the bracelet, which you'll note is both fully integrated and tapered. The handsome contrast between yellow and, of course, silver steel. Also a contrast between polish and satin. The bracelet feels remarkably solid, and it is thoughtfully made with the quick switch system, and descendant of the mechanism originally introduced in 2002 on the Roadster. It's a push button that allows you to remove the bracelet. You can get leather straps, you can get rubber straps for this watch from Cartier, and it's easy to swap out because of that system. You'll also note, if you get close, there's another mechanism called Smart Link. Every single link that has this ovoid insert, it's actually a trigger switch that pops the bar out. The bar that retains the link will not pop out all the way. You can't separate it from the link, so you can't lose one or the other. But every single one of these links can be sized using only your fingernail. Pop your nail in, the bar pops out, you remove the link, you size down the bracelet, and you get many, many sizable links. So you are going to find the perfect size. The most remarkable thing about this bracelet is how solid it feels. In spite of the multiplicity of moving parts and adjustable components, it's as solid as any Rolex or Audemars Piguet bracelet. And I would bet you that the development of this system, Smart Link and Quick Switch for the Cartier Santos bracelet, I'll bet you it cost more than the development of any given Greubel 4C watch, because of Cartier's industrial might and the sheer scale and necessity of making this right. Now, looking back at the case, by the way, twin trigger double deployant clasp in stainless steel. We'll jump back to the case, and since this is just so easy to dismember and dismantle, I'm going to pop the bracelet right off. We're going to talk about the case, then the dial, then the movement. New for the 2018 Santos, you can see there's a waterfall motif. So unlike the Santos 100, which had a rounded off rectangular bezel, this one flows a little bit into the pattern, tracing the arc of the lugs and the beginning of the bracelet. You have the signature Santos bolts along a styling feature of the Santos model dating back to the original in 1904. The original 1904 Santos de Cartier was a wristwatch created for Alberto Santos Dumont, an aviator, a dirigible aviator who was a friend of Louis Cartier. Dumont needed both hands to operate his airships, so he needed a watch he could reference without reaching for his pocket, and a bracelet watch, at the time on a strap, was the solution. On the wrist, he could use both hands to operate his dirigible and still read the time, and thus the first Cartier wristwatch and, believe it or not, on an airship, the first pilot's watch was born. So you still have all of the original motifs, the bezel that stands proud of the case, the screws, which you can see are silver to contrast with the yellow gold. But we have nuances here, including a bevel that runs all the way down the lugs as well as over the crown guard, a wonderful sapphire-like spinel in the crown, which is faceted and polished. Of course, there's a combination of satination and polish on the case as well as the bezel, and you can see that the bezel is hallmarked 18-karat gold on its side. Now, taking a quick look at the dial, let's get close here because this is the caliber MC9611 that originally debuted a generation ago in 2009 on the tank skeleton. It's a gorgeous looking movement. You can see that skeletonized base plate doubles as the Roman numerals for the dial. There's a lovely polished beveling on these numeral flanks. So while it is mostly mechanically executed, it's actually a cleaner and more mirrored execution than most mechanical anglage, which is to say this actually looks better than what you'll find from Audemars Piguet and, for that matter, Jaeger-LeCoultre and F. Pigeon. This is very nicely done. There's a vertical satination on what's left of the base plate. So you can see that it's satinated on its top, beveled on its edge, broadsword hands at center. You can see 2 open mainspring barrels, and then the escapement and the balance down at approximately 7 o'clock on the dial. Turn it over. The 20 jewel movement beats away at 28,800 vibrations per hour. The twin mainspring barrels, manual wind, of course, give the watch a 3-day power reserve. And though it is a push down rather than a screw down crown, the watch still boasts 100-meter water resistance, which means that you can absolutely take it swimming. The screw heads are nicely black polished, as is the Cartier micrometric adjustment mechanism, which is a Cartier C. You can also see that Edicron is used for tuning, which means the system can be tuned to run extremely precise. Edicron outstanding for simple and exacting adjustments of a movement. I'm glad to see that here. You can also see one more time in profile that this does have a tonneau-like camber from side to side, so it arcs around your wrist. This is a beautifully made watch and very special. The first Cartier wristwatch, the first pilot's watch, and possibly still the best watch Cartier sells in its most intriguing form. This is the Cartier Santos de Cartier Skeleton.